Hey everyone, so this is post-recording Yoiston here, and Royen and I just finished recording our Rings of Power episode 5 review here. I just wanted to give this warning out, so I'll be honest, in this review, I probably get the angriest I've been on my channel about this episode. It's all relevant stuff, I think, and I think I do make valid points and everything, but I do want to give that disclaimer. I, as Yoiston, try to be generally happy and carefree and give everyone this escapism. But yeah, I always also pledge to be honest about this show. And so later on in this review, I definitely go on a rant. And just wanted to give you all a disclaimer about that. I give my true thoughts, and this episode really, really changed things for the show for me, and not in a good way at all. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll get on with the review now. Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. I'm joined once more by Royen as we bring you review of episode 5 of Rings of Power.
Let's start. This is not a spoiler-free review. This is a spoiler review. Let's go with the polls.
Yeah. Let's go to the polls. It's been almost a day since I've seen it, but my pain has not yet lessened.
It's been like 3 hours since I've seen it, so...
Yeah. All right. So on Twitter... sorry, my dog is breathing right next to the microphone. Let's see. Our polls are really split. This is a really interesting one, even on Twitter. So we've got 1,244 votes as of recording this video. Again, it'll probably change in the visuals that I provide when I'm editing later, but... 29.8% of people say this is the worst episode so far.
I believe it.
Yeah, me too. 24.8% said had some good moments. 26.2% said was mostly good. And then 19.2% said best episode yet.
So kind of scaled throughout.
All over the place. Yeah, again, it's about... 54-ish% or 53% negative, with the rest being positive. And then 6.5 thousand votes on YouTube. 41% says worst episode so far, with 18% saying episode was quite poor, 22% saying episode was average, 11% saying above average, and only 8% saying best episode so far. So that leaves us with like
6,000 votes this is the YouTube that we're talking about second, right?
Yeah.
6,000 votes to 1,000 votes to 1,000. I honestly am pretty surprised it's not more polarizing with less viewers, but like for the average, in my head, it's like Twitter, there's a higher percentage chance of somebody who's like not hard into the community, just kind of going through the Twitter. But I feel like if you're on Men of the West's YouTube channel already, you're probably generally a pretty big fan of the Legendarium in general. Yeah. So you probably have stronger opinions about this last episode, which we'll get into now.
So I'll just say right off the bat, right? So before this, it's Friday, and had a good time. I told them I'd give them a shout out. I went out with my mentor teacher and some of the other teachers from the school that I'm at. We got a drink after school today and just were talking about stuff. Told them I'd give them a shout out. So shout out to them. And that was a really fun experience. And now it's time for me to rip this show to shreds, because this episode was horrible. I was really upset about this episode. It was kind of weird because I'm like, oh, it's just a TV show. But I was really, really upset after this episode last night. And then this morning, I had to put that aside to go teach and stuff. And then, put it aside. I had a good time with my teacher friends and everything after school. And now it's time for me to delve into why this episode for me was the worst episode of the Rings of Power so far. So let's frickin' do it. All right, so we'll start kind of like last... Oh, yeah, actually, real fast. Royen, what was your overall outlook? I guess I gave mine, so since I'm starting with that... Right now, I'll say that for me, this was a 2 to 3 out of 10, if not a 3 for me being a little generous. But 2 to 3.
For production as a show value, I would say that this was still a step back from the last, I would say, 2 episodes. I don't know if I would, just from like purely like a show perspective, not including the lore reasons. But I would say that this was a step back. A lot of scenes felt really awkward with characters. Like some were intentional, some weren't. And I would say when you toss in the lore reasons, honestly, a lot of my issues with the lore are all centralized around one wing of this story, specifically the elven stuff. Yeah, it really does have to kind of tank it down to like a 4.5 out of 10 for me. I'd say 4 out of 10 probably more likely. But I'll take admit there are some things that I did enjoy, and I'll note those because I want to make very clear the things that I enjoy, because I know for a fact we're gonna make very clear the things that we didn't
rip into this.
So
yeah,
I guess I'll save that for a little bit later. But just quickly, I thought that some of the music and imagery we're getting in this show is getting better. Like,
yeah,
they're doing a better job, I feel like, of setting scenes to be not just picturesque, but just higher quality. I almost feel like it's weird because things that for me, I was like, oh man, this is bad in like 2 episodes ago. And now I'm just like, well, I suppose I just have to be ready for that for the rest of it. It's not.
Yeah.
Because 2 episodes, we had Harfoot singing what was probably the worst song I've ever heard on television, because it was only one line repeated over and over and over and over. And then they spent that entire episode just basically ignoring the song that they were singing. I'm noticing that songs in this episode specifically are given a lot more love, and I appreciate that. I'm not like a massive like scholar of the Tolkien songs in his works, but I do know that they are a huge part of setting the vibes for a lot of scenes in the books. And I thought that the ones that do appear in Peter Jackson's film are done really well. I don't know if these are on par with some of the just the reasons, or maybe it's just that because you don't get to read it first, you don't get to see a lot of the context, it's not as cool. But I actually enjoyed the song that was sang during the Harfoot's montage scene of travel. I thought it was really well performed. And like, gosh, it's some of those visuals were just stunning, and I loved it. I'm talking about landscape shots, of course, because it's me, Ryan.
Oh yeah, of course.
But man, what else did I like? The last scene I thought was good. The very last scene of the episode I enjoyed. Was it amazingly lore accurate? No. Did it have some question marks on it? Like, wait, how big is an army to fit in 3 longships? Yes. But I thought that from a visual perspective, we saw basically all of the characters in this section of the story in pretty great light, both literally and figuratively. And it looked nice, although it was still somewhat awkward in small moments. Yeah. But hey, that's it. Let's start smacking this thing.
Yeah, I have to agree. Right, if we're talking about some positives, some of the music actually did stand out to me. We'll get to it in the first, since we brought up the Harfoot plot. We'll start there.
Yeah, that was the shortest one, so let's start there.
Yeah, but I do have to say that John Howe's art really shines through in the show, and like the visuals in that case are quite amazing. I have to, and even some of the performances were really good, like kind of moving to some degree too. But yeah, that's for me. That's where about like my kind words for this episode end. So we'll start with the Harfoots. Since we mentioned the song, we can even start there. Did you notice that the end line was referencing Aragorn? Yes. Even though I'm sure the writers didn't know that.
I actually think they do. I think that was supposed to be an homage.
I guess, but it's like one of those things. Not all who wander are lost. It means Aragorn. That's what Bilbo wrote about the ranger who wandered the wild and became the hardiest of living men. And it's like,
I think that's too obvious an homage for them to not do intentionally. But whether or not they're doing it justice, it's up to you.
No, no, you're totally right. They definitely, that was totally a reference. But it's like Bilbo came up with those words for a reason, and I don't want people like it sucks that now it seems like they're just referencing the Harfoots. But no, Bilbo came up with that about his friend Strider, about his friend Aragorn. Like, okay, all right.
Also, it's like in the same scene with the Harfoots. It's like, we're not wandering. We have this set schedule. And I'm like, oh, you have a schedule? I thought you were nomads. But, I mean, I guess still. I mean, there's not a whole lot that I can talk about the Harfoots on without just kind of being a Debbie Downer. But our stranger plotline thickens, but not really, because we got to see that they're being tracked. Also, the timing of this whole sequence is weird, because I'm imagining months in between, like the beginning and the end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Months. And
but
I guess
again, this is Rings of Power, so they'll never tell us how long anything is.
Yeah, I think they're keeping timelines super vague intentionally, because they want to. I'm predicting that they want this show to feel like the entirety of the Second Age, not just the season, but the entire show will go from what they are kind of vaguely referring to as towards the beginning to the end.
Sure.
So I expect that to be super vague, but yeah, this scene has to take months and months just based on the map. And when I'm watching them, it's not like they got horses.
Yeah, no, and it's like they were left behind already. I mean, when you look in front of them, it's like, but all of a sudden they weren't. But then it's like, when you look at them, they're by themselves. But then all of a sudden there were the other Harfoots too, and I'm like,
and it's not even like, oh, they start out by themselves, and then at the end they're like, what made them go this direction? I'm assuming, is the Harfoots in front of them. But then they meet one of them in that scene. They meet one of the old grumpy ladies that are constantly like, yo, let's leave them behind. Let's take their wheels away. It's like, so murder.
Yeah, for real.
So, and her justification, think about if somebody dies. So you're killing somebody in case somebody dies.
Yeah, no, they're psychopaths, man. Like the Harfoots in this show are absolutely
they're just
what is it? Psychopath. They have psychopathy.
Psychopathic tendencies.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what is going on in their heads at this point. I mean, we have the guy in charge who seems to be just like struggling to make decisions and things like that. We haven't seen his fate casting in a little while. It's been a couple episodes since we saw him whip out the book and try to read signs in the stars and things like that. But I mean, I don't know what's going on with this plot line, because
I was rooting for the wargs, man.
I was
rooting for the wargs.
A goal with this story. The goal of the story, I guess, is to get the stranger to understand what he's about, but they're not making moves towards that goal. Remember, because they're bringing the stranger with them in order to help them migrate. They're not doing it so that they can find out what his deal is, because they're still trying
maybe
to
that's
migrate.
Like the secondary
I think that's like
question,
in their mind was like, oh, why don't you come with us now and we'll figure that out later. And if you actually needed to go back to where we first found you, because that's where you landed, that sucks. But true. There's like hints of a plot with the creepy ladies coming out to the impact site and taking a peek at it with like blackened fingers. Weird choice for me. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of blackened fingers anyway.
I mean, I'm hyperbolic when I say that that I'm rooting for the wargs, obviously, but I'm like, this plot line is terrible.
Right now, it's pointless in the show. It's adding nothing to the show right now. I'm sure they have a plan. But
I hope. But these Harfoots are like, again, they are kind of psychopaths, and it's like, I don't think that's what they were intended to be.
Put yourself in Game of Thrones here for a moment. Now, when you have Game of Thrones, you feel like all of these storylines, they're not working together, and they're not supposed to. But each of them has a point. Each of them has their own story, their own plot. Harfoots don't have that right now. I don't know what we're walking for other than migrating. Except everyone wants them dead. So I don't know. It's dumb. Yeah. The magic is weird because there's no being in Middle Earth that has showed this level of hard magic. I mean, in the same scene, not he's like, force fields or force pushing people, bending trees around based on angst, freezing water, scaring poor girls. Also, I like how he I guess it was freezing around her arm, but I thought for a second there I was like, so is Nori just about to lose her forearm? Like, is it about to snap off?
That was brutal.
That would have been wild and crazy. But
did you notice, Royen? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say with the cultists, they were like, one of them was carrying a huge circular symbol or something,
a huge disc that they're just holding up with those.
Did you see that it had like the pie sign on it?
I didn't see a pie sign. I saw the Little Dipper on the back.
Was that what it was? It looked like
it had little
the
star
pie
points.
symbol. Like
I saw the Little Dipper, and it was it was a constellation, which I guess if that's what we're going for, but. What's the point? Why? Why?
Well, it's because he keeps being associated with the stars for some reason.
Because he came from
I don't know why.
But
yeah, and it's just
I don't know what his deal. I think that this plotline would be at least somewhat more enjoyable if I had a hint of what was going. Like, let's talk about let's talk about a different plotline. Let's talk about Arondir's plotline right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had hints last time that there was going to be, a lot of people moving towards Sauron. And so when Bronwyn got up and started having her speech, I, as the viewer, was like, okay, I know that this isn't going to go perfectly because of the hints that they laid in last episode. We don't have anything like that for the Harfoots, and so I have nothing to expect, and so I have nothing to care about.
But even then, I still don't get what what are their motivations? Bronwyn, I guess she's just trying to survive, right?
Too.
I guess
I was just kind of let's talk about Ryan's plot right then. So,
what are their character motivations? I have here, it's like, where is the substance? Simple dialogue. There's no depth of conversation. And maybe, recently I've been watching a lot of clips from early Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon has made me be like, oh yeah, I want to see those clips again. And I'm like, dang. The dialogue here has meaning, substance, intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, characterization. But these guys say what's on the forefront of their mind just to simply advance the plot.
They don't ask questions that would be on the forefront of someone's mind in order for the plot to go in the direction they want it to go.
Yeah.
It's like these characters, it feels, I mean, obviously it's a scripted show, but this feels like a children's play, and not in the fact that they're doing poor performances, but in the fact that they are given lines and their characters are saying things, but I don't feel an understanding in the character's mind. I don't feel like Bronwyn is making a decision that makes sense for Bronwyn's character so far. Bronwyn so far has been a character that is completely composed of standing up against the odds to try to save her people. In the first or second episode, she literally just decided, hey, listen, somebody's got to organize these people and get them out of here, and it's going to be hard, but I got to do it. I got to leave Arondir at the ruins of the town and go back, and I got to go save these people. And now she's just like, I don't know, man. It's hard. Let's give up.
I guess, I just don't, beyond the simple archetypal, hero of, oh, I got to save my people because they're my people and I'm the hero. I don't get why she cares about her people. The show has not shown me why she should care about her people at all.
Yeah, no, there's definitely not really a great sense of community because they're not showing anything that brings these people together, but they're constantly showing us things that should be pulling them apart. They're showing dissents. Even in the very first scene, in the bar scene, we got 5 or 6 people, angry at Arondir. That's fine. That kind of makes sense in the show. But then we even have them fighting each other. But we never see them being brought together. We never see their highs. And so when I'm constantly being berated with their lows, you're left with the questions of why is anybody here right now? Why haven't these people already just left? there seems to be two options in each character's mind: either stay in the good guy group or leave for the bad guy group. Instead of
there's
leave
a third
by
option.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave and go west.
Just dip.
Just leave Mordor. Yeah. That's one of my bigger problems, even with these other plot lines. And we'll get to the ones that really upset me. But
no, we're starting easy so far. We've got the two that I felt like
were the weakest, like coming up. But yeah, with these even quote unquote stronger plot lines, I'm like, I don't get why is Bronwyn the one that's saving the people? Why does she care, and why do the people care about her? They don't, I don't think, because even in like Peter Jackson's movies, and people say maybe don't compare the movies and the show, but you're just gonna, and because one is a masterclass in storytelling and cinematography.
If we're not supposed to, what are we supposed to compare it to? Are we supposed to compare it to the book? Because we can't. They're not the same.
Can't. No, and that's something that I hear as well. It's like you just can't compare it to anything. And it's like,
everything has to be compared to other things. Otherwise, it just exists in a void. It's unable to be enjoyed because it's just to be what is.
Totally. And so in Peter Jackson's movie, it's like, why do we care about Aragorn and him trying to save his people and everything? Well, Elrond tells us that elves are leaving these shores. There's no one really left to like help defend the world against the shadow of Sauron. And Gandalf says it is in men we should look. And then, we've got this storyline that gets set up of like men are weak perhaps, and men might not be able to rise to the challenge and defeat Sauron, but because there was the only one who could turned from that path long ago. And then we see Aragorn begin to become the captain and the king that he's meant to be. And it's like, we see that this is really the last guy. This is the hope of the West. And if it's not him, it's no one. And so with Bronwyn, though, it's like, or really anyone in this plot line, it's like, I don't get why she cares about her people. They don't seem to care at all about her. So why doesn't she just leave? Because they're her people and because she's the hero. And that's the most simple way of telling a story like ever. We'll get to that with Galadriel too, but Galadriel being addicted to combat, addicted to fighting, such a simple and horrible way to explain a character motivation. That is somebody who has barely written sentences, I feel like, could write that. And again, that sounds pretty mean, but I'm just
let's talk about
I don't know who's
Galadriel.
writing this.
Let's move to Galadriel here, because I have a lot of notes on Galadriel because we spent a lot of time with her early on. So
real fast though, with Arondir, it was kind of cool to see the fall of men. I will just say that, to kind of see men bend the knee to orcs. I was like, okay, cool. We don't see how the east and south fell. And
I agree. That was cool. That was basically a consequence that they had been hinting on for much of the season so far, and then we saw it, and it was like, all right, that's good story writing. But where's that's I don't know. That's a more complicated thing to pull off than some of the easier things that I feel like are just completely lacking. Arondir has at least a level of character depth that I can somewhat understand. But everybody else in this storyline, including Theo, by the way, Theo is just back and forth crazy. It's like, last episode he's like, oh my God, I hate the elves. What if Sauron's right? He's listening to this guy, and then because that guy disagreed with his mom, he was like, nah, man, I'm staying. Okay. And now he's just on Team Good Guy completely for no reason. He's made no changes to himself. Nothing has happened.
Arondir saved him, but
even after Arondir saved him, he still didn't like Arondir.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because that was just last episode, and he's still there hiding the thing from him. And maybe he felt a page of guilt, but there was nothing to further that guilt to the point for him to turn coat, other than that guy left.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so with Galadriel and Numenor, I wanted to say really fast, we got a lot of comments in the last video that said, people were saying that Isildur wants to go to West Numenor, not west of Numenor, but to West Numenor. And to that,
that's not true.
I say, I don't think that's true, because Elendil went to West Numenor with Galadriel in episode 3, I want to say.
And in this episode, Elendil's talking to Isildur. He's like, I thought you were going to sail west. You don't sail west. I guess you could sail around Numenor's island, but...
I don't know why you would.
That doesn't have the level of emphasis that's being put on it in the show. So that's
no, I will. Yeah.
But now let's talk about the last show. I have thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
So the positive. I'm going to start with the positive. I enjoyed the scene where she's fighting like 8 random people at once. Now that's it. Now, to start with the basics behind that scene and why it is happening. It's every 2 episodes, ladies and gentlemen, and it is time for the writers to remind us that Galadriel is good at least one thing. Because she's horrible at talking, bad at everything else, but she can she wield that sword? So while I was writing and watching this, I actually just made like a couple notes, and this is just one small aspect of her plot line, but this is just one tiny change I feel like they could make to make her more the character that they want us to believe she is. And that was, instead of walking up to Elendil and having Elendil be like, you know, you're talking a lot of smack to these boys, why don't you go show them how it's done? She walks up and takes more of an initiative, like, you know, maybe asking permission of Elendil, because he's their commanding officer, to be like, can I show them something? And then going and doing it. So that what this does for me as a writer is this shows that, first of all, it gives her a level of charisma, which has not been present. And secondly, it shows that she's willing to take chances. She's willing to take action to see the differences that she wants. And she wants these people to be ready to fight the orcs. That's like her whole character, is that she's trying to get everybody to fight orcs. And so I think that works way better than her just going up complaining that they're like bad at what they're doing. And then having Elendil basically talk her into, granted, he didn't have to try super hard, but talk her into helping them. And then she gets to like go and do it. What that does is it just gives us yet another addition of random human character. I get it's Elendil, but random human character lecturing being that is almost as old as the world itself. And Galadriel, again, she's simultaneously like 15 years old, but then also simultaneously like 10,000 years old. And it's just... And we jump back and forth. It's not like they are committing to one side or not, so that we can, you know, paint the character in that point. Because in a later scene, she's having an argument with Halbrand in the smithy. And I gotta say, that was the absolute least inspirational, the least persuasive speech that I've ever heard a character give, where the other character actually bought it. She was like, I mean, it was like this whole argument and nothing got resolved at any point. Nobody came to a level of understanding other than Halbrand was like, hey, I think you're just in this because you just want to fight. Why are you in this? I just want to fight. All right, cool.
Cool. Yeah, well, and this is what I mean, like, even from the other plot lines as it carries over, we don't know anyone's character motivations. Why does Galadriel want to fight? Oh, it's because she wants to fight.
Her brother died.
Okay, well, yeah, but even then, she's like, I still just want to fight. Yeah, it's like, okay, so these aren't real, this isn't what real people do, let alone immortal elves who have all the years in the world, let alone Galadriel. Like, we have so many layers of problems here. And then
Galadriel as a character has seen so much horrors of conflict and seen how they beget. You know, it's all these things these are literary tropes as old as time, where it's like, you know, combat begets combat, suffering begets suffering. And she's seen it all. I mean, she's a Noldor. She's and not only that, she is the granddaughter of the first High King of the Noldor Finwë, and she also, so like her fighting all those guys, cool enough scene, sure, but again, like her being just this great, cool warrior that nobody could touch. How interesting is that really? It might be cool to see as a spectacle, but how interesting is that really? Because none of us can relate to that, and no one can really. And we haven't seen her trained to become like that. And what's more, she's a horrible teacher. She's like, all right, you're going to stab, you can twist, and that's it. That's all she taught them. And then she was like, come at me. Well, I mean, she was giving them small tips as they were fighting her, which this was not a training. This was showing them what they could become. And I do kind of somewhat appreciate this. I gotta say, I have no idea why they're training these guys in the middle of the market. That was kind of dumb.
That's fair.
Because they're like cutting people's stands open and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and everybody's just like, all right, whatever, man. I think the reason they did it in the market is because they wanted to have a reason for Halbrand to be there at the end to do the
Yeah.
kickflip with the sword, which was just funny. No,
Did you also see the Galadriel is no different from the evil she was fighting? That was a line. Like,
that was
people saw her.
That was not. That was. That was like, yeah, man. What?
Yeah. No, that.
Like, okay, I can understand people being now. Granted, this is in her own head. You know, she's maybe there's like a level of or a lack of self confidence, although she hasn't shown it at any point up into the show. But that's just so far out of the themes of Tolkien, because there is at the heart of every story Tolkien's major theme, and whether or not you think it's, you know, cool in today's literary world, the heart of Tolkien's theme is that there is a pure and unadulterated evil, and it corrupts us, but it is not us, and we can fight back against it.
Yeah.
So why write that line where it's like, yeah, man, Galadriel's just as bad as those Balrogs? Like, what?
yeah, no, for real. And it's like, I just, it gets away from the philosophies of Tolkien, like you said, Royen, and it just, everything that the show is trying to set up with this character of Galadriel, she seems like a horrible person. She just seems like an absolutely horrible person. I also would want her to go west if I were Gil-galad. I don't think that's how she's supposed to be
actually
depicted at all.
I'm going to talk smack about that one too. We'll get back to Gil-galad.
Oh yeah,
but...
no, I'm gonna have a monologue here when we get to Gil-galad, dude. I am so upset about the dwarves and the elves plotline, but before we do that, I gotta hold it back for now. We gotta
stay with the Numenor. We gotta finish Numenor.
Yes.
What'd you think of this?
Also, where did Galadriel's armor come from? You know, she steps on that boat at the end. And I'm like,
so that
isn't that
that
nice?
Was her armor from the first episode, which she
how did she have it?
Which she gave up when she got on the ship because she got into her death clothes, I guess, or her sailing west clothes.
Well, remember, she got into different armor. It was like a different set of armor, and then they took that different set of armor off.
You're right.
They swam.
They stripped them into the white cloth, and then she swam. So she had no armor.
So I guess she teleported real quick to Middle Earth, and then teleported back with her armor on, so she could sail to Middle Earth.
I don't know. That's a pretty
maybe they had some
annoying, especially because they took the time to dress Halbrand in Numenorean garb.
Yeah, and then just...
So I guess the implication is that they just have leftover elven garb, leftover elven armor, but...
That looks just like her armor from episode 1.
Well, I mean, I would not be surprised if that hasn't changed in the time since. But
yeah, exactly.
But still, I don't know. It's a pretty small but pretty glaring detail to miss. Yeah. I think they missed a pretty good opportunity to set her up in Numenorian looking armor like they did Halbrand and just have it look cool and different. Although I gotta be honest, the white leather armor for the little cadet boys looks so funny and so silly.
I absolutely love the Numenorian armor in Peter Jackson's films, like the tall I don't know, like the headpiece, that tall headpiece that comes right off the front.
So you're talking about so it is Numenorian in origin, but in the show it's worn by the soldiers of Gondor. Is that what you're talking to?
Yeah, like Elendil's helmet at the beginning of Fellowship. Yeah, I love that design. It feels very kingly. This, I don't know. It's to me, it's not horrible.
I don't dislike it. It's definitely a different vibe. I think that having the male kind of shoulder pieces. I'm not well versed in armor vocabulary, but having those little chipped mails things is cool. I think it's a decently fantasy oriented armor. But when I see it in leather, which is what the cadets are wearing, it just looks Just looks
Silly.
kind of cheap. I don't know.
Yeah. I forgot about this, but since we're still on Numenor, I should get into it. So Isildur is weak, spineless, and just kind of a piece of crap in this show.
He just has no direction. And I think he's supposed to feel weak and spineless because that everybody's treating him that way, and it kind of makes sense that he has no direction and he has no idea what he wants to do with his life.
Bro, he's like annoying in this show. He's like, I just want him to go away when he's on screen. I'm like, yeah, dude, like get out of here. If I were one of your friends, I'd be like, get yourself together, get out of here.
No, but it's just kind of weird to me that his whole plot just feels his motivations, although they are present, they feel the most strained for me because, you know, he's really good at being a sailor, and he seems to really enjoy that up until the point he sees Numenor in the lighting, and then his ADHD kicks in and he can't focus.
I guess, man.
And so it's like, okay, maybe sailing isn't for you if that's going to keep happening to you. But then at the same time, he's like, man, I got to go west and solve that voice. Wait, never mind. I gotta go to Middle Earth. Let's go. I gotta go. I gotta do everything I can to get on that ship to go east. I gotta go, guys. Come on, somebody help me out here.
Yeah, and it's so fickle, is what I would say. Like he seems like a fickle guy, just going from one thing to the next.
I would argue that the only character with like less compelling and actual like, you know, direction of their character is his sister, Aarian.
Yeah.
She is so unbelievably against this voyage for no reason. We have seen no reason why
because
she doesn't like it.
Who needs writing that explains character motivations? You know, like that's we don't deal with that in the Rings of Power.
Even Pharazôn's son, whose name I've forgotten, but you know, these two characters, Aarian and the son, they have some sort of a relationship, not like a romantic relationship, but like a character relationship where they are a duo so far. We've seen, or at least we've been told, his reasoning, which is like, yo, Pharazôn, none of this makes sense. You don't like elves. I'm your son. I follow in your footsteps, or at least I want to. Why are you helping them? But for her, it makes no sense at all. Why is she against elves? She was raised by Elendil. We've seen nothing to indicate that she is resentful of her father and his beliefs. We've seen nothing at all. Yeah. She's just like, this voyage cannot go. It must stop for no reason. And that's all she's done so far, is kind of just complain about the voyage. But the Pharazôn, let's talk about Pharazôn for a minute, because he had another scene where he kind of just ate up the screen for me. He's such a good actor. But that scene was completely ruined by his son's character, and I can't tell if this kid's just supposed to be the biggest idiot ever. But this whole scene where Pharazôn basically, you know, with just a look, he can dismiss everybody in this room, in this public area, and nobody's going to ask any questions. That really shows like just how much influence his has, and that's awesome. I love it. And then he sits down with his son and he explains exactly why he's in favor of the voyage. Exactly why. There was no room for misinterpretation. It's like, listen, if we do this, we can get a vassal kingdom, or at least a kingdom that is allied and in debt to us. So that's why I'm doing it. And to quote him, for not all the salt in the sea. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess salt is valuable, but
yeah, some of these comparisons are really odd. Like, and we'll touch on that when it's like how everything is a tree or is related to a tree in this show, and it feels not Tolkienian, but rather like like they're just acting Tolkienian, like they're mimicking Tolkien without being Tolkien. The comparisons they use are generally odd, but I can tell they're trying to mimic Tolkien without actually mimicking it, you know, in a really constructive way.
So,
but Pharazôn, I do like that character. I do like how he's being portrayed in terms of just the actor and the writing.
And he gives this complete speech to his son, and then I thought it would have been better writing if he had dismissed his son. That gives us a little bit more of that Tywin vibe, but I think that they want us to make that connection. But no, he gets up and he leaves, and then we hard cut. And we don't see the son again until he's trying to burn the ships down. So what was the disconnect here, my guy? Like, did we cut a 4 or 5 second scene where he makes a decision that he doesn't like his father's wishes? Do we cut a scene?
That his father's wrong.
Do we cut a scene where he's like, no, my father has good intentions, but it's not going to work? Or do we cut a scene where it's just like, nah, you know what? I just don't like my father, and anything that he wants, I don't want. And he's just trying to burn the ships down for
characters just
seemingly no reason. Isildur is on the ship, also,
which I knew. That's that was like super predictable. This whole storyline has been very.
I don't think. That level of predictability for that was not super like glaring to me. I don't really care. And so Isildur is just like, are you trying to burn this shit to the ground? And he's like, maybe. And that was the extent of their conflict. He was like, give me the lantern. And then of course they dropped it. They lit the ship on fire. They were walking out. He gets hit by a boom, and so he falls down. Isildur saves the life, gets out of the water, and the first thing I totally was like, you can just rat this guy out and be like,
earn your place.
But no, he's just like, yeah, man. He was in a boat, and he was just in a boat. And then the other guy comes to it. He's like, he saved my life. He could have left, but he saved my life. He's like, I thought you were in a boat. And everyone just buys it.
Characters are only as smart as I think Critical Drinker says this. It's like characters are only as smart as the writers are, And so the writers aren't making these characters particularly smart. They're only making them what they want them to do.
Exactly. They're just writing. They're making the characters smart enough to further the plot without having to show like something, and then they're making them stupid enough to have furthered the plot without having to show.
Exactly.
And I just don't this son of Pharazôn, who's I'm really blanking on his name. Do you have it?
No, it doesn't matter
all that much. Yeah, like I just don't understand what his place in the storyline is supposed to be, because now that everybody's leaving, I assume that we're going to get maybe one scene every couple episodes of Pharazôn taking more power. So is he just going to start, like, is he just going to be Pharazôn's lackey, or is he going to be Pharazôn's
I think they're trying to do like a Romeo and Juliet thing of like, well, Elendil's daughter doesn't quite believe in Elendil's virtues, and then Pharazôn's son doesn't quite believe in his ideas either, and so they try to meet somewhere in the middle, but they're torn apart because, like, I could already see that this plot is probably going to head in that direction, is where they're trying to compromise between the two. And I think what will happen is like Tarmiriel will probably lose favor because she's going to work with the elf and all of that.
I think she's going to die. Tarmiriel is going to die in Middle Earth.
It could happen. But I think we're going to see Pharazôn marry Tarmiriel. I think they really want that political twist.
I guess that's a really good point.
Because that is what happens in the lore, right? Yeah. He forces her to marry him, and it's like then he gets the throne. I imagine she loses enough political support to where that does happen, like the death of her father, that sort of thing. And then they marry, and then he starts to take over, and things start to get worse. But no, and when I say it, like the son's name doesn't matter. I mean, I have this written. One of my last notes in here for episode 5 is, in this show, everything is a joke. Nothing matters in this show. And that's totally it. Like they are making a joke out of everything. And honestly, I can't hold it back any longer. It's time for me to go on my.
Well, it's just about that time. Let's talk about the last plot line we haven't touched on. Elves and dwarves.
I gotta jump in.
Go get them.
Get after it.
Go get them.
Alrighty. Why make an adaptation if you're not going to do anything faithful? What, like anything? I mean, like 80% of the lore of this show, I would say, is just off the cuffs, especially concerning the characters. Why make Gil-galad someone who's a liar and tells Elrond to break oaths? Why make Durin somebody who makes jokes about stone that encases their celebrated dead, and that also lies about such things to other kings? Why would you contrive a plot about Mithril, again, pretending and mimicking the writing of Tolkien through trees, and acting like, oh, well, it's a tree, and the Balrog was fighting the elf, and then lightning struck the tree, and that created Mithril, and the elves are going to die if they don't get Mithril, because Mithril represents the light of the two trees, which comes from the Silmarils. And it's like, are you freaking crazy? Tolkien has a much, much better story than you guys, and you guys are just arrogantly just destroying it all. I am seeing some of my favorite characters from the Second Age just get massacred before my very eyes. And it's It is so sad. I mean, you see things even like this horrible writing from 2022 of Durin saying takes weeks to take a shit, and then it gets cut off by Elrond. I'm like, you're about to make Durin, the prince of the dwarves, cuss in a very 2022 kind of manner. Like, that is how you would, I don't know, that's something you would like say to a teenager. They're about to cuss and then you like cut them off in the middle. Are you freaking kidding me? The writing in this show is horrible. This is the episode where I'm like, I hope this show gets canceled to some degree, because this is just, it's so infuriating and it's so offensive to me as somebody who loves Tolkien and the source material. Would I watch this show if I wasn't doing these reviews? Probably not. I'll be entirely honest. I probably wouldn't. Maybe I'd binge the first season after it comes out. But if I wasn't doing these reviews with my friend Royen, if I wasn't doing this for all of you guys, I probably would have stopped. This is just desecrating the lore, and I can't stand it. Like, Amazon, I don't know why you did this. I don't know what. And to be fair, I saw this comment on Twitter. It's like, maybe that was part of Amazon's intentions, was to kind of annoy Tolkien fans to some degree and then reel us back in later or something. But I don't know why you would do that. It's like making an adaptation of anything, and then the first people that should be defending you in your audience, the first people that like should be defending you in comment sections and things like that, you go ahead and just upset them more than anything. It's like, are they really trying to annoy Tolkien fans with this stuff? No, I just think they're really incompetent writers. I don't mean disrespect to the people that make the show, and I get they're people, and maybe they are really trying their hardest, but you guys could have done anything better. And like, I have been very gracious to this show, to the trailers, to the first couple episodes here, and the whole like, oh, well, things could change, right? People go through character arcs. Oh, Isildur is only a punk right now because he's going to change. It's like, well, then when we look at Tolkien's works and the character arcs that he has therein, why isn't Isildur a punk in the lore? Why isn't Elendil like this kind of authoritarian father in the lore? And all these sorts of things. It's like, why are you injecting these 2022 personalities into this lore that's supposed to be escapism and these weird bits of dialogue? Does Gil-galad understand what he's saying by saying, Elrond, you should break your oath? You're pretty much condemning Elrond to a life worse than like the Void, than the halls of Mandos. You are, if he broke that oath, he would be entranced in something so terrible that Gil-galad, I just feel like this makes Gil-galad the most evil character and politician that we've ever seen in Middle-earth, because he wants Elrond to break an oath. We've seen what happens to the Oathbreakers. Obviously, that's at a later point in the lore, but because of the Oath of Feanor, and that the sons of Feanor kept so closely to the oath, as they would rather kill a bunch of other elves than break their oath, that should show us that Gil-galad and the other Noldor know how bad it is to break an oath. But you're still like, break the oath, whatever, right? You're gonna save your people from this really contrived plot of Mithril and salvation that comes from some Silmaril thing, which I don't even understand, to be honest. It's like an elf put his energy into a tree as he fought a Balrog who's trying to destroy the tree, and then lightning struck the tree because there was light and darkness, and then the roots of the tree became the veins of Mithril and the earth of the Misty Mountains. But how did this elf have it like a Silmaril that he potentially put into a tree? And granted, this is like a fake... This is like a story within the story, so maybe it's not true. But what is this contrived source material? These false conflicts between elf and dwarf. These reasons to make characters lie to each other. Again, Gil-galad's a liar. And for some reason, they even do small things like Celebrimbor's talking to Elrond. And then he's changing the story of Eärendil and Elwing. It's like, oh, I was there when your father left. Your mother did not want him to go, but he said he was the only one who could do it. I'm like, okay, so that's just the simplest plot ever. But even so, Elwing was there with him. Elwing went with Eärendil because she was also half-elven, and they together went into Valinor. Eärendil pled to the Valar, while Elwing went to the Teleri, the very same Teleri that were slain by the Noldor during the first kinslaying, mind you. And it's like we have these ends of the stories. Again, we have references to the Oath of Feanor to these stories, but then they either change them or they show parts of them and they're like, see, we do have the access to the lore. Aren't we so cool because we're showing the Oath of Feanor, except we're not showing the Oath of Feanor because Finrod's taking the Oath of Feanor. Flashback to, season 1 at the beginning of the episode. It is such a contrived plot. This is poorly written. I am disappointed in this show. I'm disappointed that this show was made. And this is by far the most negative that Yoyston has been on the Men of the West channel. But I I was so offended. I cannot believe this. Again, I'm only going to watch the rest of this because I enjoy making these reviews. Even if I'm upset now, I enjoy making these reviews with Royen. I enjoy making these reviews for you all so that, maybe you guys don't watch it. If I have to suffer through this, if this show continues to be as bad as this episode was, which again, for me is sitting at like a 2 or 3 out of 10, if I have to suffer through this and I can tell other Tolkien fans, maybe don't waste your time with it, then, fair enough. Maybe Amazon, maybe that's just like a small retaliation to what Amazon has done to this lore. But oh my gosh, this episode was the one that did it for me. And again, if you enjoyed it, like I said in the disclaimer weeks ago at the beginning of the first episode review, if you enjoy this, I'm happy for you, and by all means, certainly enjoy it. But for me, I grew up with these stories. So many of us did. I love the Second Age, even if there are a lot of things we don't know about it. But then Amazon comes along. They say, oh, Lord of the Rings makes money, right? Okay, we're going to attach Lord of the Rings onto our fan fiction. And call it a day. We're going to hire the first editors that we see, or the first writers that we see, sorry. And again, I'm not trying to be mean to the writers as people, but I just don't think that this show was for them. We're going to just hire some people off the street to write this. That's totally what it feels like. And we're going to hope for the best. Oh, have you read Lord of the Rings before, writers? Lord of the Rings, is that the one with like the magic kid? Or is that the one with the blonde lady and the dragons? It's like, oh, close enough. Whatever, you guys got it. Like, doesn't feel like they've ever read The Unfinished Tales. Doesn't feel like they've really read the Silmarillion. I feel like they skimmed it on Spark Notes the night before they were supposed to write the script. And this episode shows it because we've got lying kings and oathbreaker, or like the desire for oath breaking, and it's so incredibly frustrating. And this was it for me. I had to like go off on it because, granted, the elf and dwarf plot was one of my favorite plots in the show, but like they screwed it up with one fell swing with a couple scenes, and yeah, so I don't know. I hope that rant was coherent, and
I think it was.
Thanks.
But, I just want to kind of piggyback back off of some of the things that you said. On the topic of oath breaking, okay? This is unforgivable, really, because even it's written like somebody who doesn't know what oath breaking means in this universe.
Exactly.
But I don't buy that because you don't need to read the works to understand that oath breaking is bad. All you need to do is watch Return of the King, one of like the biggest movies that's ever came out.
Ever been made. I have to wonder if Gil-galad, because he was acting so evil, is actually Sauron. Like if Sauron took his form in this moment.
But he can't. He can't because he's just too dumb.
Yeah.
he's too dumb. And again, we have our Wendy's manager back. And every scene he's in, there's just a complete. Everybody just looks like they look at Gil-galad like, yeah, he's in charge, I guess. It sucks, but he's in charge. Like, come on, Gil-galad is the High King.
Yeah, exactly.
He's one of my favorite characters. He's so cool. But in this show, not only is he not cool, he's also an idiot because he's so afraid of the shadow overwhelming his people. All right, decent fear. He's afraid of it because of a fungus on a tree. It's like, okay. And in order to get rid of it, because he's so afraid of the shadow coming and taking over the world, we're going to send away not just, Galadriel because she's angry and likes to fight all the time, but also the only elf who still thinks that the shadow is a problem.
Yeah. Nope.
Except I guess not.
Get rid of her. Yep. No, we don't.
So why?
And again, all the characters are so insufferable in this show. I don't blame them for like trying to get rid of each other and like go away, go off to the west because they're all just stupid and insufferable.
No, okay, and okay, the dinner scene between Durin and Gil-galad was the most awkward, like uncomfy thing I've ever felt. And I literally just have written down here, this is so dumb. Yeah, for real. Because I'm just thinking here, and I'm thinking, like, we have this dinner scene. There are 8 elves at the table. Or there are 7 elves at the... No, there was 8. 8 elves at the table, okay? Mm-hmm. We had the 4 characters that we know. Elrond, Celebrimbor, Gil-galad, and Durin, and 4 faceless elves, because they never actually show their face, that say nothing the entire time. And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, is Gil-galad really like this these days? Like, I'm just begging, like, can we please have elf characters that, aside from, I guess, Elrond, but just elf characters that have reason? Like, where is Celeborn? Where is Círdan? Like, these are fantastic characters that you could just so easily, even if you're making up the plot as you go, which they are, you could just put in here to have them be a voice of reason, so I don't have to hate this entire scene. I can live in something.
I'm just glad they're not butchering my second favorite elf, Círdan, like they kind of butchered my first favorite elf. I totally understand. Like, it's and when I say that, I kind of hope that after this episode the show gets canceled, because like I talk to people. I know it's totally not either. It's especially, at least until after season 2, but like I talk to people that aren't as big into the lore, that just want to be entertained, and they're like, dude, this show is so boring. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I get you.
That's the biggest issue from like a show perspective, is that from a, fan perspective, they're losing fans every day. And I feel like they were predicting that was going to happen. They were expecting that to happen. There's nobody that watched this and went like, yeah, man, the fans are going to love it.
Because they just knew from when they wrote the script that this is not Tolkien at all. Like parts seem like it, but no, they were just massacring like the works, and they were just like, oh, money, great.
But every episode is so long. They're all like 70, 75 minutes, and they're going up against right now. They're going up against House of the Dragon, which is just a superior show in every respect. Writing is the most glaring, but it's also just it's a prettier show. It's easier to follow the plot.
The combat's better. The dialogue's deeper. Yeah.
It's more topical for today. All these things. And so I'm just completely lost on what they want. What are they trying to achieve? What's the end goal here? And why, weeks ago, I remember saying, it was like, I hope they don't introduce Sauron too early, because that would be a cool reveal for later. Cool plot line for later. I feel like there's a lot of things they can do before Sauron shows up to make the plot work, but apparently not. Apparently they can't, because it's so boring. And the plot that they came up with, I have here in my notes. There is no Sauron plot that could be worse than this conflict, this manufactured conflict between men and elves.
Yeah, this contrived
Gil-galad, who I know for random audiences, he's just the elf king. Like, that's his whole background. But Gil-galad is supposed to be one of the greatest elves of this day. He's supposed to be smart. He's supposed to be charismatic. He literally, he single-handedly basically brought together all of Middle-earth to fight Sauron at the end of this age. Yep. Okay?
Yeah.
And he's just getting bought into, man, this random rock is going to be what saves us. Have you learned nothing from the Silmarillion? The Silmarils have brought nothing but pain to everybody since their creation. Okay, it's not like the Silmarils were super awesome for a while until they weren't. Since they were created, basically the first thing that happened is that Feanor's dad was killed and they were stolen, and ever since then, everything has sucked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
So why?
Why would you want to reintroduce that? Where is this whole thing coming from of like the elves will diminish unless we get our hands back on Mithril because the light of the two trees is.
You knew elves were going to diminish when you left. That was the deal.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, is we can't ground ourselves in any context of the lore. They just pick and choose. Like, why when he says that oath breaking is like okay, where are our flashbacks to Mithros killing the elves at the Havens of Sirion during the third kinslaying? Where's that flashback? Oh, they don't have the rights to it all of a sudden. But we've seen other flashbacks that have actually less context to the show. Oh, okay, so they just pick and choose what to show us, pick and choose where to ground us in the context and the story and the time and the lore, all of that. They pick and choose when characters know things, when they don't, and what they care about, what they don't care about, and when they know things. It's horrific writing. This is season 8 of Game of Thrones for me, all over again. This is like at that level, I would say, for me.
And we're right back here with like what's different. When we're talking about it right now, let's just know some of these things. You know, we're talking about how Silmarils, they don't, not even the thematic problems that they have, but you can't rely on yourselves like, where are the actual Silmarils in the story? Because which Silmarils is one supposed to be in the tree? What?
I would probably say Mithros is because it went into the earth, but no idea. I have no idea.
It's not in the earth, though. It's apparently in a tree.
In a tree. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too, is Mithros jumped into a chasm with the Silmaril and died. And it's like, did he jump into a tree and die? What?
It's like, it's not like the elves. They don't know where the Silmarils are, but they have stories for where they went before they were last seen, and none of them have anything to do close to a tree. So that's completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, the stranger is, like I said at the beginning, he's got like the most magic power I've ever seen in the show, and that includes Sauron's. Like,
yeah.
If this guy can basically at will use big magic power to, you know, force people back and then heal himself with water. Like, at first I was like, okay, they're trying to introduce this, his magic costs. Okay.
Yeah.
At first it was like his magic costs the life of the fireflies that he kills in order to do his thing. Then it costs his arm when he does that, but then he heals himself for nothing. So yeah. I don't know. I'm at a loss for what the hell they're trying to do there.
Yeah. It's so incredibly frustrating that Amazon has gone this route.
This random plot with Arondir, I gotta say, I'm tired of random swords being ancient artifacts. Like, that's just a really old generic fantasy trope.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's a key. I was like, of course it's a key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of that. We talked about some things with Tarmiriel and Farazan and where that is in the lore, where they should go. I still think they're going to have the shock value of him forcing her to marry him, because that just kind of feels like the vibe of the show so far. Of course, everything else going on there is crazy wild. Elendil, although being easily the most charismatic character in the show, is just this kind of like weirdly
authoritarian,
I wouldn't even say authoritarian. He's just like, he's all or nothing, man. He's either like fully in his son. It's like, oh my god, my son saved this random guy. I'm never gonna ask a question on like what was going on, why he was on the ship, why this guy was in a boat allegedly. Not because I'm just so proud of my son, right? And we'll get him on there, and I'll make a joke at the end, like you have to go shovel the horse poo, like And then on the other side, he's just like, he's just kind of talking smack to his kids all the time. We talked about Isildur being just,
in the lore, he saved the White Tree single-handedly because he stole a sapling of Nimloth the Fair, and it survived through him. Again, there's always that argument of, oh, this is just the first season. Maybe we'll see that later. But he should still be the character that would go on to do something like that. Not an annoying dude that's just, I just want him to go away every time I see this character on screen. I'm like, I don't see you being the character that, with your brother, established the kingdom of Gondor, Osgiliath, Minas Ithil, and took the fight to Sauron, and cut the ring from his finger as a war guild for the death of your brother and your father. Like, you're not even the kid that resembles the character that goes on to do this, because you're just so blah, just so weak, just so annoying. I don't know. Maybe he's really going through a phase that he really grows out of, but I don't get why they made these unnecessary changes to the show. Again, Gil-galad, why would anyone sing a song about this guy? He was a pretty bad elf king. He was a pretty bad politician. Why would anyone?
He's grasping at straws. Like,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
And it's a smack in the face to have him talk about hope that way. Like, it's a smack, because that's a really important message, I feel like, in a huge, it's like they copied and pasted a theme from Tolkien's work, but they didn't actually put the theme in the show. They put the line in the show.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what the theme is. Not let's kill, or let's brew conflict and steal from our neighbors because that's our last hope. Like, no, that's not It's not the point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and like, speaking of copy and paste, I mean, I know this review's going on long, but these are the waters just flooding for me. Like, this is the avalanche coming down. I really hope the next episodes in the season are better, but if it's not, like, I'll just continue to rip this show to shreds because I don't care. Like, Amazon, you know, you don't have to like my channel at all. That's never been what this is about. Like I always said from the beginning, I'll be honest about my thoughts on this show. I've given them plenty of grace, and they throw this at us. Nah, I'm done. Like, this show freaking sucks. And, yeah, these characters, how they butchered the characters, how everything is different. How, like, you took a source material, you took Mithril, all this stuff, and you just changed it. Nah, man. Nope.
It's not even just changing. It's making it worse.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Again, these writers, that's what I was going to say. These writers seem like they looked into Tolkien, and then they're like, the night before, they're like, oh crap, man, we're supposed to go into Amazon Studios tomorrow and start writing like the script. Okay, let's just like Wikipedia Tolkien, it'll be fine. And then they see that he liked trees. They see that hope was like seemingly kind of a big thing in his legendarium, and they're like elves, dwarves, men, hobbits. Okay, cool. Like, we got it. Have you ever read Lord of the Rings before? What's that? No, we're fine.
But we can name drop random characters, and then that'll be enough to get us through. That'll help us slide through.
That'll be fine. That'll be, yeah, great. Like, the fans are gonna, like, the hardcore fans are just gonna love that. Or, you know, we're gonna throw Narsil in the back there, and we're gonna do this. That'll be enough. And then we can just tell, like, not only an aggressively mid story, but just this story that makes no sense in its internal logic. So, yeah, for me, this is probably it. It always goes down when we talk.
Yeah, I'm on like a 3.5 now.
Yeah, I'm on a 2 out of 10 for me. So, yeah, that's our review of.
I mean, there were some like pretty scenes. I saw a post like before we started recording. I forgot about it, but like, you know, there's like a pretty picturesque CGI scene of like a rock carving of Erendio with like the star, like he's got his hand up and there's like the actual star like in the cup of his hand.
That's awesome.
And that's like a pretty picture, and I could tell like there's people on this project that care. It just wasn't the writer's room, and that's the number that's the one that counts. That's the one that counts the most. And
like John Howe being there, and I think I saw even like a Baron and Luthien tapestry that somebody brought out in like the last episode. That was something next to Narsil that I missed, was a Baron and Luthien tapestry, and it's like, again, John Howe's art is at the forefront here. And honestly, this would be a much better show if there was no dialogue, no writing, no characters, and it was just a slideshow of John Howe's art. So
I don't know. It definitely wouldn't be 75 minutes long.
Yeah, and our reviews of it wouldn't be over an hour long.
Yeah, okay. You know, I talk smack about the length, and then our review is almost. It's just. I don't know. When I watch the extended version of Lord of the Rings, like, yeah, I'll feel it after 12 hours.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'll be like, I need some food. I need some snacks.
Yeah, I need to rest.
Might need an ibuprofen for like a electronic headache, but other than that, I don't feel like it took 12 hours. But for this, I sit down. I sit down today after work. I see 75 minutes, and I groaned. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I feel every minute of it. I swear. And
Me too.
All right, let's wrap it.
Yeah, sounds good. Royen, thanks for helping me through this and hearing me rant. I appreciate it, man.
I'm gonna be honest. I appreciate it too. I'm so glad you're here to talk to me about this.
Dude, you too, man. Like, this is so therapeutic for the episode. I had this bubbling inside me all day when I was just like doing stuff for grad school.
I knew when you didn't text me at all today about the episode that it was gonna be bad. I had no idea how mad it was gonna make you.
Dude, I was just smoldering all day. Like, I had to like mentally be like, okay, put it away when I went to sleep last night. Mentally put it away when I went to do school and teach today and stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna let it loose later. I gotta put it away for now. But no, that was upsetting. And honestly, I hope that's like the angriest that I'll ever get on this channel. I don't ever like to get that way on this channel, but my goodness, this got me there. So well, we probably won't rant much about this on our podcast on Sunday, but if any of you guys would like to listen to our podcast, we're recording Sunday on Patreon. So also, if you'd like to support the channel, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles through the link in the description below, or check out merch Patreon. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Peter Sheppard, Jonathan Putnam, Mark Kralick, Blair Scouten, Merten, John Hume, Sam McBee, Matt Sibbach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibs, Rhys Jenkins, Adam Petrlik, Brandon Glidden, Molly Sullivan, Daniel Burns, Anthony Harmon, Dorwin Gray, Arthur Merlin, DJ Vaught, and Dale Davis. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube
Real
members.
quick.
Yeah.
I just want to plug if you want to go to the Patreon and join the Discord, like if you're just now hearing about the podcast on Sunday, we take questions from Discord, and we usually grab those every Sunday. So if you want to ask us questions, if you want to ask about the show, that's fine. But if you want to ask questions about anything, like just come on into the Discord and toss that. And Yoisten usually collects those on Sunday. Like an hour before the podcast, we film it or whatever. But yeah.
Heck yeah. Thanks, Ryan. And my friends, I know this was... I'm going to go back in editing and put a disclaimer at the beginning of this, but...
you should just title this, like, two angry men for 70 minutes.
You know what? I think I will, to be honest. That's great. So... Yeah, I'm sorry if you're all annoyed or disappointed by our review or whatever, but we always pledge to give our honest and true thoughts about the show. We
gotta keep it real.
Yeah, we're keeping it real. So, my friends, thank you all so much for joining us on this adventure. I'll be back Sunday with the normal lore video and everything. We can get back to the actual Legendarium that we enjoy and not this crap. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.